My name is William Justice, and welcome to part 2 of my behind-the-scenes series for creating fusion effects that you can use in the timeline. In part 1, we set up a basic animation for a slide panel that slides in from the side and then automatically slides back out. We created some custom controls for it and set up the animation. I'm going to have a link to the first video in the description below, and I'll also put a card right up above. If you're interested in checking out that video, it's not necessary, but it might kind of give you some ideas of how we got here. In part 2, in this video, we're going to take what we did and build on that. So this is my SCAMO method. So in the first one, we set up the animation, we created some controls, and we animated it. That's the SCA. And today is the MO, where we're going to create the macro, and then I'm going to show you how to open up that macro and take a look at what's going on inside and customize the fields. So we're going to be able to move the fields around, change some default values, adjust labels, and create some groupings to make it a lot easier to configure and use your controls. If you enjoy my videos, make sure you subscribe and like this video. I'd really appreciate everyone's support. Comment below, I'd love to hear what you have to say. All of these effects are available for download from my website, billjustice.com. Let's get started. Okay, it's time to create our macro. One of the things that I like doing when I make the macros is organizing things, using these pages up here, and also using these labels that let you expand and contract to group things together. So let's add a custom label in that we're going to use for, we'll call it animation, and we're going to use it to adjust our animation settings. So we can really be on any of these nodes, but let's put it on this transform one. So we're going to right click and choose edit controls, and let's call it animation. You can leave this as a number and scroll down to the input control right here, and let's find a label. There it goes, label control. And we'll just do show. Let's put a 1 in there. Hit OK. So what that did was that created this label for us here. It doesn't do anything right now. One of the problems with the edit controls is it doesn't really let you reorganize things very well. So we're going to do a little bit of hand editing to get this set up how we want it. And we're going to use the label when we do our hand editing. All right, let's get into the macro. So we kind of know what properties we want to be able to change in our macro. And we're going to group, let's move this to the side, this to the side. So all of these nodes are going to be combined into one group that do the effect for us. So to create the macro, you can select all of these nodes, right click and choose macro, and then create macro. And this takes all of the nodes. So each one of these expandable things here is the nodes that we have selected right from down below. One thing that is kind of handy is you see that these just are coming in some random order. I like selecting the nodes in the right order so that the controls are kind of in the order that I want. So for example, if we chose the background, all the background controls are going to be the first on our macro when we're looking at them right here. They're going to be on top. And then as we go down, the controls will be down on this list. And we're going to choose these in a specific order. So we're going to choose the transform 1 because that has our panel position. Then we're going to use the transform 2 because that has our clip position. Then we're going to choose the background 1, which has the color. We're going to choose the background 2, which has the border color right here. Rectangle 1, which is going to have the border width. Then we're going to select the JTC, which has our timing information in it. And then we're just going to go ahead and select these other nodes right here. You want to make sure that they're all selected. If you don't select one, it's going to mess things up. So what Resolve is going to do when we turn this into a macro, it's going to look at all the inputs and outputs. So we're going to have an input coming in right here. It knows that there's an input possibility right here and then an output going into the media out. So let's right click and choose macro, create macro. Now you'll see that the controls are in the order that we selected them. So we have transform 1 and transform 2 and so forth. So let's take a look here. So let's click off of this. One of the nice things is you can click on these nodes to see what's going on. So for example, if we click transform 1 in the main panel here, and let's click transform 1 on here and open it up. So what you're seeing here is this is a list of all of the controls that are in this node. You can see it's broken down by page. So we have the controls, common, and user controls. So if we open up user, that's corresponding to this tab right here. You can see we have our panel position and the panel position. So let's go back to the main tab, hit controls, and you'll see that these are all in the same order. We have center, pivot, size, aspect, following right along here. There's a lot of information, but it gives us full control to determine what we want to be available in our macro. So really what we're doing here is choosing the fields that we want to be able to change when we're in the timeline and editing our effect. For the transform 1, we want to be able to change the panel position right there. So let's go to transform 2. Transform 2 is the one that had the clip position. So it's right down here. And the clip position is in the user area. So let's select clip position. And you can also change the names here. So if you want to put a space in it, or say you call it my clip position or clip offset, you could really do whatever you want to. That's just the display name for it. We'll go into background 1, and background 1 is this node right here. And right now it's set to this blue. So for that one, we want to be able to change the color. So in this background 1, there's a color option here. So let's open that up. Really all I do is just check every box in here. This is gonna let us have full control over the color. Okay, that's all the color. And I like to kind of close these up when I'm done with them, because the screen can get a little bit overwhelming. You'll see that the ones that are in red are ones that we've made changes to. Let's click on background 2, which is gonna be our border color. And same thing, we're gonna go to the color area and just check everything. And we'll close this one up. The rectangle is the one that we use. It's the mask right here on this background. And we want to be able to see, the nice thing is you can play with this. So if we click the rectangle, we can adjust the border width right here and kind of see what we're doing. So let's go into the rectangle, the controls, and we're going to choose border width, and we want border width to be available. So let's do this just timing curve. So we're going to choose so let's close out the merge section, the channel section. We're going to the user area. These are the things that I'd set up in the just timing curves. And we're going to want to be able to adjust the frames in and frames out. That's going to let us slow the animation down or speed it up. So we'll do frames in, frames out, and close this. Then we want to go into the ease in and ease out curve. So this is going to let us change the easing in and out. So we're going to choose ease in and ease out. And let's do the same thing for the ease out curves. We'll choose ease in and ease out. And I think that's it. We're pretty much done. So at the top, we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it just slide panel test. So this is going to be the name of our macro. These are all the controls that we're going to be able to change. And down here is the node structure. So we'll hit close, and it's going to ask us if we want to save it. And we definitely want to save it, because if you don't save it, you're going to lose everything. And we're going to say yes. This opens up a file save area, and by default, it wants to save it into the macros area. And macros, these are just things that you're going to use from inside Fusion. But we want to be able to use it from the timeline. So let's go back to the main Fusion area and choose templates. And we want these templates to be in the edit area. So click edit, and these are going to be in the effects. So click effects. So these are all our Fusion effects, and it's going to be called just side panel, and save it. And we're pretty much done. So let's restart Resolve, because you have to restart Resolve when you make these changes, and see what we got. Okay, we're back. Resolve is restarted, and I got a new clip of me talking right there. So let's get off the media pool. We're going to go to the effects library, and to use this, we're going to do let's see, go to Toolbox Effects. We're going to take an adjustment clip and put it right on top. We're going to apply our effect to the adjustment clip. So in Fusion Effects, let's scroll down, and you'll see that we have our just slide panel test. So let's take that and drop it right on our adjustment clip and see what happens. Goes in and out. It looks perfect. In the macro, we created all those properties. So how do we access those? Let's click on the adjustment clip and click on this effects icon and Fusion Effects, and you can see here are all our properties right here. We can adjust the panel position back and forth. We can adjust the clip position. This is our color. We can adjust our border width. Now at this point, it's kind of ugly, and this is where I like organizing things to make it a lot easier to use. So how do we do that? Unfortunately, it does take a little bit of hand editing, but I'm going to dive in and show you, kind of give you an idea of how it works. And if you want to try it out, I'd encourage you to kind of make a simple macro and play around with it to see how it works. Because once you get a feel for it, it's just going through the steps. We're going to reorganize these to kind of put them in a better logical order, put some expandable areas, and maybe experiment with putting them on some different pages. So to do this, we need to get into Fusion. So let's click on the adjustment clip and click this little Fusion icon right here. All right, we are in Fusion, and the media in is this right here, the media out is this, and this is what we created, this slide panel macro. So how can we adjust this? Let's copy it. We'll hit Control C, and obviously you can hit Control V to paste it, but it's not just the node, it's all of the information that goes along with the node that's being copied. So what we can do is, let's open up Notepad. You can really use any text editor that you want, and hit Edit and Paste. What this is all of the code for the macro we created. So you'll notice here, if we click the just slide panel, all of the things right here in this first section, these are all of the inputs. These are all of the inputs is a control. So you see right here, we have panel position, which is the first thing in here. Scroll down a little bit, there's clip position, and then we get into background 1. We scroll all the way down to the bottom of this list, this first list here. And we'll have the ease in, ease out, the frames, the border width. So these are basically all the things we want to change, but they're not in the order that we want. So let's fix the order. So what you can do real easily, so if we want the border width up on top, we just highlight this section between the inputs and the brackets with the comma. Let's cut it and scroll to the top. And we want that to be right below the clip position. Right there. So this is the border width. So right now you see it's kind of on the bottom down here, and we moved it below the clip position. So it's not going to change in this list automatically because we're just changing it in the text editor. But what you can do is select all of this, copy it, go back into Fusion, and we'll delete this one out. Click on the media in one and paste. And we pasted that one in, and you'll notice now the border width is right up on top under the clip position. Really easy to do. Let's do it for the frames in and out. This is the animation section that we're going to create. So let's go scroll down to this list and find what we're looking for. These backgrounds have a whole lot of properties. Okay, here we go. So it's this JTC. This is the node name that we created, and the frames in, frames out, and the ease in curve. So let's just take this, and we're going to copy these right through that. So there's looks like there's about 6 properties. And you'll notice that there's not a comma on the end of this. When you're editing these files, you need to be real careful that there's a comma separating each of these things, or you'll get an error and you won't be able to load it in. So let's cut that. We'll scroll to the top, and right below the border width, we're going to paste these in. And this is where you'll see that there's not a comma right here after this last one. So let's add a comma like that. And we'll select that, copy it. You need to make sure you delete this one out, because if you paste one in, it's going to change a lot of the names. You'll see it call it just panel 1. It had the _1, and we don't want that. So let's delete that out, delete the main one, and we'll paste that one in. There we go. We got all the main controls right on the top, just like we wanted. So let's make a new page. Let's put the background in a page and the border color in a page. So we're going to copy this, hit Control-C. Let's go back over to Notepad. This is kind of what we had before, but we'll paste in the updates. And let's find our background 1. So we can search for that. So background 1. To put it on its own page, all you got to do is come right into here and type in uppercase page equals background, and it needs to have a comma after it because it's a property. And let's find background 2, and let's see, where does it start? Right here. Background 2 starts right here. Let's put this on its own page like that, and with a comma. Now what would happen if you don't add the comma, you're not going to be able to paste it in. So a lot of times I do a little change and paste it in. I'll change a little bit and paste it in, because if you mess up the file and you've made too many changes, it's hard to know what you did. So let's select all that, copy it, back into Fusion. We'll remove that one and paste it in. And here we go. It's already looking a lot nicer. So we have a page here for the background color and a page for the border color. Now when you hover over it, you'll see it says background and background 2. So this kind of gives you an idea of what you can do. So if we want to change the border color, let's make it, we can make it black. So one other thing you can do with these, if you really needed to go in and change something, say you wanted to add a new effect in, or you wanted to change up the way your macro worked, or maybe you wanted to change some defaults, you can copy this, paste it in. Right here we see macro operator. Let's change that to group. Select everything, copy it, delete, and paste it in. And now we have a group, so we can open this up. And this lets us go in and adjust all of our controls. So you see when we have the main group selected, these are our macro controls, but we can go in and adjust the merge or the transforms. If we wanted to change the way the animation works, we have access to basically everything that we did. We could even add new nodes in here. Can't do everything, but you can do a little bit of changes. Okay, one last thing. We're gonna use that label that we did. I think it's nice when you create the expandable groups so that there's not too much information in the inspector at one time. So let's copy our panel settings and we're going into Notepad a lot. Make sure we got the latest stuff, paste it in, and let's search for label. Because remember when we created that label a while ago for animation. So this is gonna be for our animation group. And you'll see that it is a integer number inputs. This is what we're gonna change in just a second. It says how many controls are within this label group. It's a label control, and you'll see that it's called animation right here. So to put this in, let's go up to the top This is our starting controls, and we want it to be right in front of our frames in. So the label is going to go between border width and frames in. And we can just copy this section here for the format, paste it in, and each of these needs to have a unique name. So let's call this input animation. Input animation label, can't spell. It's on the rectangle 1, and the name of it is animation. And this animation name is the same name that is down here. Right here. So in the controls, it's called animation. That's our label. That's how you reference it. So go back to the top. So our animation is on, it's not on rectangle 1, it was on the transform 1 node. So this is the node, and this is where we put the label. So let's copy this and paste it in and see what happens. So we're going to delete the one that's in there, paste in our new one, and here's our animation label. So right there, you see that it only has one subcontrol underneath it. So let's fix that. Let's search for, I do a lot of searching in these. And it'll go down. So here's our animation area. We'll scroll down and we can change the settings. So the link's name is, that's the name of the label. So let's call it animation settings. So right here, it's going to say animation settings, and it's going to have 6 controls in it. So it's going to have the frames in and out, as well as these 4 right there. Copy that, delete it, and paste it in. And there we go. We have our expandable animation settings section. By editing that file, we can do a whole lot. We can create these pages here and labels. We can actually even create another label. So if we wanted to put a label on the border width, we can use what's in there and make another one without having to go through the edit controls area. Show you that real quick. Okay, so here's our animation label. Let's copy that, and I wouldn't really do this, but this is just to show you. I copy that, and we're going to put it at input border width label, transform 1, and we're going to call it, the source is going to be border width label. So we need to create something called border width label in transform 1. So let's go back down. And here's our animation settings. This is our animation label. I'm going to copy this, and we're going to put it right on top. You got to make sure that we have the comma right here. And we called it border width label. And this one is only going to have one thing in it because it's only going to have the border width. And we'll call it border control. All right, let's copy that and see what we got. I think I mistyped that one. So let's scroll back down because that's the thing where it did not paste in properly. Yeah, I put my bad typing there. So let's change that. Border width label. Copy that and delete it, and paste it. There we go. We have our second label here. So we have 2 groups, expandable. So now we know how to reorder these things. We can change the names and labels. We got this. The last thing you might want to do is change some of the defaults. You can go in and do that pretty easily. So for example, panel position, if we wanted to change what that defaulted to, we'll go back into our text editor and search for panel position. And right down here, keep searching. So the default value here is 0.27, so we could have it be 0.4, like that. And paste it in, and you can see that 0.4 is the default. So you can set the defaults by hand editing the file for just about anything. Okay, super important step here. We've been editing this in just this file right here. And what you need to do is you need to take this and save it into the Fusion templates edit effects area into the same file that we already saved before. Otherwise, we're going to lose all our changes. So you just make sure that if you make any changes in here, that you save them into the other area so that they're available. And once you do that, you restart Resolve and you'll be ready to go. Okay, I hope that wasn't overload or too much information. I just wanted to go through the entire process because I figured there may be some interesting things you might be able to learn from this. I appreciate everybody watching and hope it was not too much. If you have any questions, let me know and I will do my very best to answer them. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this 2-part series of the behind the scenes of how I created my Fusion effects. Most of the other ones that I did, whether it's the mask or the highlight, they used a lot of the same techniques, especially with the timing curves. All of this is available for download from my website, buildjustice.com. If you feel like it, you can buy me a coffee. It's not necessary, but I would definitely appreciate it. Or really just even knowing that you're using my tools, that's awesome. So now that I went through this, I got a lot of new videos planned, some really great stuff. I'm gonna be diving into some effects and a lot of other things. Can't wait to get started. If you wanna check out what I'm doing, subscribe, like this video, comment below. I definitely have a lot more great things coming. Thanks for watching.